I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for January 23rd, 2018. First, we have approval of the amended agenda. The 8C has been added. That is an additional resolution. I don't see any other changes unless...
Yeah, there is one closed meeting,
What is it?
I think, right?
Two closed meetings, actually.
Two closed meetings.
Both under attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved as amended.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Would we all please rise for a moment of silence? And Councilmember Banks, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is anyone signed up to give public comment? No. Even though you're not signed up, would anyone like to give public comment? Okay. First, we have a proclamation and presentation honoring our CERT program participants, and I believe Chief Dixon is first up.
I'm going to be very brief, and then I'll turn this over to Greg. I just want to publicly thank Mayor and members of the governing body and also our CERT team folks. This has been something that this recognition has been something that I've wanted to do for quite a while, and we've tried to work through the logistics and figure out the best time to have this. We decided on January. That's because that's the month, and in 2004 is when our CERT team was formed. We have one of the oldest CERT teams in the area. And so we picked January. That seemed to be an appropriate month, and it also would give the coordinator an opportunity to just kind of brief out the council as to the activities from the previous year. So look forward to seeing them next January. I want to do this as a regular thing, an opportunity for you to thank them for the services that they provide to our community, because they do provide a lot for us, a lot of help in that area. And also perhaps folks here tonight and listening or watching on TV, it may interest them. They may spark a little interest in wanting to be a part of CERT, because it's a great program, and it's definitely a needed service for our community. So with that said, I would like to call Greg Gresham up, who is the CERT coordinator. Fire department, our responsibility is we more liaison with the coordinator of CERT, trying to make sure that they have the resources that they need to be able to do their training, have meeting space, try to help them out, where we can. But they take a lot of it on themselves, and they know what to do, and they do a very good job in supporting the fire department, police department, public works, parks and recs, with a lot of our events and things that we have. So Mayor, if you would like to do the proclamation part and present that to Greg, I would appreciate that. And then if it's okay, I'd like, Greg has a short PowerPoint and wants to just kind of present out on activities from CERT.
Welcome everyone, and we sincerely, from the bottom of our heart, thank everyone for what you're doing on CERT. And now I'll read the resolution, or excuse me, the proclamation. Whereas the CERT's concept was developed and implemented by the City of Los Angeles Fire Department in 1985, and whereas in 1994, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, expanded the CERT materials to make them available to all hazards and made the program available to communities nationwide, and whereas the CERT program was established in Manassas Park in January 2004, and CERT members spend over 30 hours learning about emergencies and disasters and how to deal with these ongoing situations, and whereas CERT is a positive and realistic approach to emergencies where citizens provide assistance to neighbors, organize volunteers, and provide information to professional responders. CERT is about readiness, people helping people, and rescuer safety. And whereas CERT participates in many events and emergencies such as National Night Out, July 4th fireworks display, Cougar 5K and Fun Run, Fire and Rescue Open House, and Annual Light Parade. Now therefore, I, Jeanette Rischel, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the City of Manassas Park, do hereby recognize the CERT program and further commend the CERT members for all the work they put into emergency situations and events for the City of Manassas Park and other cities when requested. In witness hereof, I have hereto set my hand this 23rd day of January 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. That's the proclamation. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
for everything that you do and everything that all of your folks do.
Thank you.
We sincerely appreciate it.
Amen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you,
Forgive me, I'm battling a cold at the moment, so you might want to
Chief. Okay.
use some stuff later on.
And Madam Mayor, you're wearing green like the CERT team.
In honor.
You're about
And
like
some technical
a member.
difficulties.
Was that accidental or on purpose?
Accidental.
The mayor's got the same green as you guys have. She's-
I have to call it Manassas Park Green or something.
That's awesome.
Oops.
Lana, your name's all over.
Oh, that's a pretty ocean.
That's right, can't tell.
Kansas, we'll get them next year.
Nope, that's not.
Right, it's embarrassing.
Okay.
You gotta click enter. Just enter. Hit enter.
Yeah.
Hit enter first. Now do it.
Well, it's right.
Yeah.
So which one is your presentation?
I don't see it right there.
Oh,
Unless it's somewhere in there.
I don't think so. It's the first emergency for 2018.
Well, we have copies of the thing. I mean, they could read through it. I mean, we can read through it because we have it in the packet.
I got it.
Do you have it on your
Can you forward it?
I can put it down.
email?
Let me get you.
Hey, Greg, this is your first emergency for 2018?
Well, it's one that we don't exactly go over in training for this program, but my normal job,
It's fine.
I'd normally have a thumb drive and all that other fun stuff on it, but I wouldn't want to plug it into your network anyway, so that's good cybersecurity. But I can continue on. I have the slides here and I can speak
Yeah.
to them so we don't slow things down because I know you have more other important things to do.
We have it too.
Okay,
We have it in
excellent,
the packet.
excellent. Madam Mayor and members of the Manassas Park City Council, thank you for inviting me and my fellow team members here this evening and for the proclamation. Tonight we're going to discuss the Manassas Park Community Emergency Response Team program. So first of all, what is CERT? Because that's the first question everybody always asks me is, what does CERT stand for? Well, it stands for the Community Emergency Response Team. It was a concept developed by the Los Angeles Fire Department back in the early 90s, or excuse me, the early 80s, when they saw the results of the Mexico City earthquakes and how the local responders were somewhat slowed down by the response of the locals who didn't exactly know what they were doing. They didn't know how to treat injured. They didn't know how to do search and rescue. And in a lot of cases, those folks were injured themselves trying to help those that needed help. So the Los Angeles Fire Department, who has earthquakes as a problem themselves, came up with this program to teach local citizens disaster response.
Excuse me one second. Let me get your presentation up here.
Can you see?
Okay.
No,
We are now live. Okay, so real quick, there's the agenda. It's a realistic approach to emergency situations. We don't teach people how to drag people out of airplanes. We teach them the right type of buildings to go into when they're damaged. We teach them how to put out fires. We teach them how to, help those that need help on that really bad day. We teach our folks that members' actions do make a difference. You're not just there as a bystander. You're there to actually help the first responders, because the first responders are not necessarily there right away. It may take them minutes. It may take them hours, depending upon the severity of the emergency that happens. So our mantra is do the greatest good for the greatest number. That means we try to do the most with what we have on hand at the time in the most efficient means possible. So what do you get from CERT? A community better able to respond to disasters. It's not taught in schools. You don't see very many folks signing up for these young service organizations anymore. So what we do is we teach adults, and I know it's somewhat of a process, how to respond to disasters. What do you do when the building starts shaking? What do you do 24 hours before a hurricane makes landfall? What do you do when you see a fire? How do you respond to those type of situations? We teach folks how to provide assistance to the neighbors, how to take those neighbors and turn them from just a group of people into an organized force, or a multiplier, as it were, to help out the first responders and hopefully make things better for them when they get there. And how to provide information to professional responders, because they have their own special language. They're out there, they're talking all the incident command system language, all the other stuff where they're working with them, both the police and the fire department. So they know us and they know our training, and they know that what we're trying to do is trying to help. This is just some photos of some of our training that we get. We teach our folks how to build emergency disaster kits. We teach our folks, the right way and the wrong way to evacuate from buildings. We teach our folks how to put out a fire. You'd be surprised how many folks don't actually know how to use a fire extinguisher. You'd be surprised of how many different types of fire extinguishers there are, and the types of fires that they're really the best thing to put out with. We teach emergency first aid, how to splint, how to stop wounds from bleeding. Hopefully we should be very soon teaching how to use tourniquets and things like that. Light search and rescue. We don't teach our folks to put on full battle gear, as it were. We teach them these are the kind of buildings that you can go into. These are the kind of buildings that you should not go into, because they will fall down and hurt you. New to the course, it's terrorism and active shooter awareness, because the world we live in, it could happen literally any second. Mm-hmm. And anything could happen. Just today in Kentucky, we saw what happened there. We teach our folks what to do when those type of situations happen, and what they call disaster psychology, which is how you help those survivors afterwards start to move on from the event. And the best thing about this, the cost for all this training is free. All the material is provided by FEMA. All the gear that we get is provided through grants through either the Virginia Department of Emergency Management or other organizations that have money out there for these type of local organizations. So we have a very small financial footprint for the city, and all our time that all these people give, it's all out of their own pocket. These are just a few of the things that we have done over the last few years. We participated in Snowmageddon and Snowzilla by helping to dig out fire hydrants because, you know, you always hear clear out at least 3 feet around all those fire hydrants, but, you know, not everybody can get around to doing it, but our CERT folks are out there doing that. We're answering phones during Hurricane Sandy so that the first responders or other folks that may need to be doing other things, they're not being tied up answering phone calls. We're working booths at National Night Out. We're being an extra set of eyes and ears. The July 4th fireworks show, we're helping with traffic and crowd management. Same thing with the Cougar 5K and Fun Run. We're out there keeping the people in the cars separated, as we like to say. And the Fire and Rescue Open House, where we're out there doing community support and teaching folks, you know, the importance of fire safety. And then I don't know if we want to call it the annual light parade now, but you know, we're out there doing traffic and crowd management for the light parade also. So we are very active in the community. We also go out to other communities here and help out when they request. We've helped out with the city of Manassas numerous times. We've even gone out to Fairfax and helped out with some of their exercises that they've had. So we're not just here within the city of Manassas Park, we're also pretty much within the entire National Capital Region. I wanted to introduce all the team members that made it here tonight. So let me switch to that page here real quick because I don't want to miss anybody that showed up tonight. So please rise when I say your name. Teresa Depew, Mary Moore, Bill Truding, who needs really no introduction, Anna Truding, Ray Knight, Sandy Knight, Phyllis Hall, Greg Hall, Claudia Calderon, Rafael Riccarelli, Noel Montessa, and I believe I got everybody. Okay. These are the members of the Manassas Park Community Emergency Response Team. Finally, I would like to thank our partners in this preparedness effort, Chief Dixon and all the members of the Manassas Park Fire and Rescue. We would not be able to do what we do without their support, and also with the training and support received from Colonel Evans and the officers in the Manassas Park Police Department. Again, they provide us training that we would not otherwise be able to get, and they provide us support for when we're out there helping them. They provide facilities to our team. They provide guidance and wisdom, and they're just really great to be around too. So it would make it impossible to do what we do without their support. So again, thank you for your time, and do any of you have any questions for me about the program?
Questions?
Yes,
Hector?
sir.
First, I want to say thank you for all your service. I'm curious who's the most veteran here and who's the rookie here?
Well, we actually have one of the graduates of our first class. Two? You and... Oh, Claudia. That's right. Claudia was in the first class. I'm sorry. Claudia Shy. And Teresa and Mary Moore and Ray and Sandy Knight are within our most recent graduating class that we had here just this last time around. We had a joint exercise with the city of Manassas over at the high school where we had a disaster drill. It was really fun. People broken arms, cats and dogs living together in mass hysteria, all that fun stuff. And they went through about 30 hours worth of training. You know, they learned a whole bunch of stuff I'm sure they probably didn't know they were gonna learn. Probably stuff that they're gonna have to, you know, work on learning because it's a continuous process. It's not just a one-time thing. It's ongoing. We meet every month about something. We try to run through the book at least over the course of the year, and I try to have 2 classes every year, but this year I'm only going to be able to have 1 because I'm involved in the national level exercise on a personal level, so I'm up to here with regular work. So it's just I won't have time to do that this year. But any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say thank you. And maybe I saw somebody taking a picture. You always ought to go out in the hallway and get a nice picture and put it up on the website.
Yeah.
And maybe the Facebook feed for the
Group
for
shot.
the city.
Group shot.
just who are you guys are and that you're here. I think that would help
Holding your proclamation.
with the proclamation. and the
We can do
plaque.
that.
Yeah.
So be a good advertisement for you guys.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have for this evening. Again, thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to seeing all of you out there in the city as we're out there doing our thing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask any of my members how they like the program and what they do, and they'll be more than happy to tell you.
How do we reach you? Do you have an email address, a Manassas Park CERT?
Well, it's
email
really
address?
easy to remember. It is manassasparkcert@gmail.com.
Okay.
We do have a Facebook page. It's Manassas Park CERT. You can also find us on the fire department webpage.
Emergency management.
And under emergency management, and again, we have a Facebook page.
Okay.
And you just search for Manassas Park CERT, and it'll find us eventually.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thanks to each and
you.
every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is informational items. We have none. Next is consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of January 9th and the appointment of Martha Collier and Rick Schubert to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next, we have unfinished business. This is the cigarette tax stamp issue, Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'll be turning it over shortly to Deborah Cannon, who's the administrator of the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board. She's been very gracious in providing a lot of information and taking the time to come out here and answer any questions you may have of the potential decision to move to the board. I just want to provide some information as we help process our decision making here. So in fiscal year 17, we collected about $180,000 in cigarette tax revenue. In 16, we collected around $344,000. It seems to fluctuate. In FY18, we budgeted around $280,000. So per the board's analysis, if we were to use their services in FY18, they would be collecting a net of $279,000. That's $287,000 collected minus an $8,000 fee. So while this is $1,000 less than what we forecasted to collect, they'll also be providing a robust inspection services and the stamps that they utilize. So currently we don't have that. We do basic inspection, but not at the level of that they provide, and Deborah will be able to provide some more information on that. And then of course we have the purchase of our own stamps, which we do roughly every 4 years at a cost right now of $16,000. It was $13,000 last time, or around $14,000. So it keeps going up, as everything does in acquisition. So if you think of it at an annual cost, if you annualize the total, it's about $4,000 annual. So when you consider that, you're actually collecting a net positive by moving to the board. Plus, you get an inspection program. So you're gaining potentially more revenue, and you have a robust inspection program. So also the board came out here, quickly surveyed wholesalers and our retailers this week, and they did find that one of our businesses was not purchasing our stamps. My assessment is that was based off looking at some of the other businesses in that area. We're losing around $3,500 to $7,000 at least because of that. So there's a potential for extra revenue collection through a robust inspection program. So I would urge that the governing body strongly consider moving towards joining the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board. And I'm going to turn it over to Deborah to answer any questions. I just listed some of the basic ones that we've been kind of talking about the last couple of weeks that we can hit up. And Deborah, feel free to present on anything else that you want to discuss as well.
Yes, and there's something that I talked to Laszlo about today that I wasn't thinking about when I was putting together my analysis. We also charge our wholesalers a permit fee every year, and the board, all the members get to share in that cost. We do an auditing of the wholesalers to make sure that we are collecting tax on every single stamp that they purchase. And if we find a variance, that is also shared amongst the jurisdictions. There is a 10% penalty on that is shared. Late filing fees are shared. So there's more costs that are more revenues that we bring in that are shared that are not just part of your tax. We do inspections at least twice a year. We monitor, our wholesalers have to report to us monthly. We monitor their activities, so if we see any variance in their activities, we will go out and inspect even more often to see if they're not buying partial, the proper stamp, and then partial not. So they can go, because you're located next to Prince William County, and Prince William County does not have a cigarette tax. So they can go and they can kind of supplement from outside. The store that we did go into, that is one of yours, that's what they were doing. They were purchasing from a Walmart. We were able to trace the stamp back to see where they were purchasing, and they have not purchased from a wholesaler. I went back quite a ways, and they haven't been paying their cigarette tax in some time. So those are some of the things that we do to make sure that we are collecting every single tax dollar that you all would be part of your tax. So
I just want to let you all know as well, I did provide a handout of the requests, the last request you received from, so
Yeah.
Fredericksburg to join. You can see there's a paragraph in there talking about a boundary line change. That wouldn't be required for us because we're already within the boundary. There's a resolution on this, right behind the request from Fredericksburg, and then there's also I provided a copy of what the agreement would look like to join, and actually I believe that agreement was from Leavittsville.
yes, and the reason I used Fredericksburg's request because they're the only other jurisdiction that we ever took in that already had a tax. The other ones had to pass the tax before they could join. We are also, our stamp is a dual stamp. It's a state and a local tax stamp, so the wholesalers only have to put on one stamp versus two. And the state law is that you have to use the state's method of stamp. So if sometime they're getting ready to do a study through Altria, who is our stamp provider for basically everybody and for Manassas Park, if they make a change within the next couple years, this new, in fiscal year 2019, they're doing a study. We will automatically convert because we are part of the state stamp, where you all would then have to require purchasing whatever type of stamp the state decides to go with.
So one of the questions that they brought up was, are there any upfront costs? I know I've addressed this before, but if you can just hear it
No,
directly from-
there is no upfront cost. It's actually for you all, it's very simple because every one of your wholesalers that already provide to Manassas Park are part of us. So it's just a matter of me letting them know that every stamp would now be a Northern Virginia stamp, and they would start reporting to us as soon as the date, whatever month you decided to put in. Then it would just be a very easy process because there would be no applications that they have to fill out or bonding issues. Yes, all our wholesalers are also bonded to make sure that we get every tax revenue. If they go out of business, bankrupt, we have a bond with them that we will get our tax dollars for you.
So question. So you said joining, the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board is fairly easy because the wholesalers are part of it, So I want to flip the question. What's the process, and if we want to pull out?
If you would like to join, you would need to submit a letter of request. The board would be with you all, be 19 members of our board. The board would get together and say yes or no, which is not going to be a problem because you're not outside of our boundaries. We do City of Manassas, we do Fairfax County. So you're right in between us. And then once we do that, you all pass a resolution for us to collect it and pass our ordinance and sign our agreement.
Okay.
And he's
Pull
asking
out.
if we would like to pull out in a future date.
Oh.
What that process would be.
Anytime. Arlington County pulled out years and years and years ago.
Okay.
It's very
So is
simple.
there, some kind of notice period? both, to join, like, and what's the duration? If we said, like, when we want to join, how long does it take before we actually join? And if we want to pull out, like, is there a notice period, we have to fulfill in order to pull out of, the tax board?
Only thing that I would need to do for you to join is to get a board meeting together.
Okay.
And I need a quorum for that.
Okay.
So part of the request that you have, when you make a request, you have to guarantee me basically a warm body
Okay.
to show up to our meetings.
Sure.
Because it's very hard. Right now I need 10 people. And sometimes that can be a little bit challenging to coordinate that. So what they've been making the jurisdictions do for the last 6 that have joined is that they have to guarantee someone to show up to the meeting. It does not have to be the designated board member. It can be just anyone to represent the jurisdiction. If you decided in a future date that you no longer wanted to be, you would just send me a letter and it'd be a very simple process.
Okay. So what happens after that? I'm just trying to walk this through my mind. Right now, when Debbie purchases those stamps and then she sells, so all the cigarette, when sellers have to come and purchase those stamps from Debbie and then put those on the cigarettes and then sell it. So if we pulled out, then we would have to probably go back and walk through the process, right? So Debbie will have to once again go and purchase those stamps, and we'll have to notify all those sellers that they will have to now purchase those stamps from us.
What would happen if you all joined the board? We would notify the wholesalers. The wholesalers would notify the retailers
Okay.
that they would be. We would also, go out and let all the retailers know, because we have a retail inspection sheet that we make sure that we let them know everything they need to do to purchase cigarettes. And that's one thing that we've also been an added benefit for the jurisdictions. The part of the requirement in the ordinance is they have to have a business license that's current. They have to have a Virginia resale certificate, and now they have to have a Virginia ST10C form to sell cigarettes. So if we go in there and they don't have, we check their business license. If it's not current, then we can stop their sales. And if we call, which we do, we call our jurisdictions, and if they have an issue with that business, with their business license, we can actually seize their cigarettes because they're not allowed to sell them. So we've been able to help on that end. But the wholesalers, we will notify them and we will give them a retail notice on what they need. And then the wholesalers will notify that, because it'll be the same wholesaler. They just will have one stamp instead of 2. For the retailers, there will be no change. There'll be no price change. They'll just have a different stamp. And then what we do is we give them 30 to 90 days, depending on, to sell out of the old stamp. And then we will come out and give them little stickers to put on their stamps, on their cigarettes. So there's not a floor tax. You already have a tax. So like I said, you're different than most of ours, but we make sure that there's no impact to the retailer.
Okay.
If you have to seize, then when the business gets their paperwork in order and get their house in order, do you return the
Yes.
You do return the
Yes,
cigarettes?
if it's for a business license reason, yes, we just hang on to them until they get everything in order
Okay,
and it goes
okay.
back. If we go out and they've been buying at the Walmart on Liberia, outside of your area, and we seize them, that's their penalty. What we do is, if that's first offense, if there's a second offense, it's a class 1 misdemeanor. So we do have penalties for if they're not paying their tax, to make sure that they do it properly and they're not filtering in stamps from Prince William.
What is the turn time from the moment you walk out of here this evening, you contact your board, we pass a resolution? Can you estimate the turn time until we're up and running?
As soon as I can get a board meeting together, and quite honestly, that's going to determine on our weather. The weather's great right now, so I have a lot of western jurisdictions. We're due for a board meeting now, so I'm hoping to have one at sometime in February, and then once it's approved, we can have this up and running within a week or 2.
How often does your board meet? yearly?
Yearly, generally in June.
Oh, so it's one time a year?
Yes.
Is it represented by elected officials on the board, or is it just an appointee by?
We have a variety. We have finance people, we have
So it doesn't have to be an
revenue.
elected official? It can be
No,
anybody?
you designate who's going to be the board member. What we do each month when we send the revenue check to you, we will send a letter to one designated member. And with that, we'll send out a distribution sheet which lists all our expenses for the month, any interest we gained, any penalties we gained. You'll have it all broken down. I gave a copy to Laszlo. And then I also have we do what's called a receipts expense disbursement, which will show you everything that we have in reserve and everything that we spend per account. The board decides on our budget. I will put a budget together every year, and that's approved by the board. And one of the things we can do when we do see cigarettes is we can sell them, and that goes into a reserve account. We have about $400,000 in our reserve account right now, and that money either will go back to the jurisdictions, or we'll use it if we need special projects like right now we're getting ready to renew our computer system. All that money comes out of that reserve from our c-cigarettes, so it's not an extra expense to the jurisdictions.
How many FTEs does your organization have? How many FTEs, how many total employees do you have?
6.
And about half them are they all enforcement, or are they?
Yeah, everyone's enforcement except for my deputy. She's pretty much inside with me.
Oh my.
So how many localities do you have?
Right now, 18.
18, okay.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is we could be up and running in about 5 weeks.
If I can get a board meeting quorum together, yes.
Because we don't want to run out of stamps.
Right. And I did provide Laszlo a listing. I went to all the wholesalers to see what they had on hand, and I'm not sure what you have on hand. But there's only 2 wholesalers that need stamps that are coming up. The other 3 have plenty. And they both said that if you all passed, that you would request, they'd buy in small increments, because what happened with Fredericksburg is they bought their normal, like sheets can buy up to 6 months at one time, and then they had to return them all for credit. So they don't want to get in that same situation. So they'll just buy in smaller increments and that way it would stay. But McLean and, there's 2. McLean and Sheets are the only 2 that are going to need stamps anytime soon.
We have, I believe, 36 rolls left. Is that correct?
How is your annual deduction based on the number of establishments per jurisdiction, or how is that based on?
Our expenses?
The deduction that you will get.
Okay. Well, our expenses get deducted based off your pack sales.
Oh, okay.
So the more packs you sell, it's a percentage, and you'll see that on that sheet that I provided. Fairfax County pays the bulk of our expenses because they have the bulk of our sales. So, and it goes also the same direction for the additions. The interest, the penalties, the permit fees, everything that you get as extra is also based off pack sales. So the percentage, you were about in the same range as what, Falls Church, I think, about looking?
It was hard to.
I think it was City of
Definitely
Falls
higher than
Church.
Percival, but
Oh, yes, I think you were at 2%. You were at 1.2%, which is the same as the City of Falls Church.
yeah.
So really Fairfax County helps support the rest of the board because of their pack sales. And this year, I don't know what will happen with our legislation, but there is a few bills out there to allow there's only 2 counties in the state that can tax cigarettes, and that is Arlington and Fairfax. There's 2 bills that may go through this year because they're requesting they allow the other counties to put it up for referendum. If they do, then we would also collect Loudoun and Prince William if it passed. which would even lower your expenses even more because they're so large, since it's on pack base.
Okay, I got some questions. Okay, now, you guys, you have law enforcement powers. You have special agents, is that right? Or
We're
investigators?
revenue agents.
Revenue agents.
Uh-huh.
So you do have investigators.
Yeah, all the revenue agents are investigators. We have the authority. We do the class 1 misdemeanors. We carry badges. We have the authority within our ordinance for guns and squad cars and things like that. We just don't use them. So unless we get to a point where we feel like we need them, and then it would go back to a board decision on that.
Do your investigators
But,
use their
yeah.
own vehicles, or they have vehicles provided?
We have vehicles that are provided through the board. We have 2.
Okay. And when they do gather information for criminal prosecution, it involves the local police, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What we normally do, if there's an issue that we need to call the police, they'll come out and they assist us.
How many investigators do you have?
4.
4. And what we have, how many jurisdictions is part of this?
18.
4 covering 18 jurisdictions. That's a lot of work.
We easily get to every location at least twice a year.
Okay.
That's all they do is they're out in the field.
Yeah.
Except they'll come and audit. We audit all our wholesalers. Our large wholesalers, we audit every 3 months. Our smaller wholesalers, we audit every 6 months to make sure that we are collecting tax on every stamp that they buy.
And these investigators go through some type of training, right? Okay, got it. In terms of, let's get back to the, in terms of the meeting schedule, you meet in June once a year. What's your location and time?
We're in Fair Lakes.
Okay.
So we've been there now for about 14 years.
Okay.
It's very centralized for us and for the 18 jurisdictions because we're right off the Parkway 66. We used to do the meetings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon until I got so many Western jurisdictions, and that made traffic a little problematic. So we've been doing it more around lunchtime. So people won't be, it's not too early in the morning or in the afternoon for traffic purposes.
Okay, that makes sense. And how much revenue do you guys get from the jurisdictions, the 18 jurisdictions? Total.
Well, I have
On a
up
monthly
to,
basis, it's $3 million.
well, up in this year so far, as of last month,
1.2 million.
yeah, $1.2 million.
$1.2 million, and you have $400,000 in reserve, right?
Yes,
That's per month, right, the 1.2?
1.2 is what we've had year. Yeah, let me get the other one. Our total, that's 1.2 is our monthly.
And you're kind of functioning as this quasi
It's
municipal
a
board.
quasi-government. Yes, at this point, as of December, we've made $6.3 million
Wow,
In the fiscal year.
fiscal year.
it's a good
So
fiscal
6
year.
months, we've had 6.3 million.
Okay. Are you guys subject to independent audit?
Yes, we're audited every year.
Okay. And those results have to be public? Are they given to the state, or who gets your audit results?
Well, first they're given to the board at our board meeting, and then they're public. We have to file them with the public, whatever that place is called.
Auditor of Public
Accounts.
Accounts.
Yes.
Yeah, the state auditor of public accounts.
Okay, got it.
We have to submit that each year. But yeah, the board gets a report directly from our auditor each year at our board meeting.
Okay. And in terms of the fees, we just have that annual fee, which I think we did the math, it's like, what, 4,000 for us?
No, it's net 4,000. It's
Net
about
four-
$8,000.
8,000 for us annually, and that's the only fees we would be paying, right? Or is that,
Yes.
we're gonna pay for that in the stamps?
No, that's part of the stamps.
That's part of the stamps?
Part of our budget, our entire budget, I can produce that for you if you would like it. Again, it's approved by the board each year, and all of our costs are on there for employee, for stamps, the office rent, everything that we would spend is done through the budget. And we, quite honestly, we've never reached our budget each year. We're always way under.
Okay. My concern is that you guys have a fairly large budget. You've got 4 investigators working 18 jurisdictions. That's a lot of work for them. Yet your board members only meet once a year, and you don't even have like a financial committee to oversee the funds as well or anything. And that's a lot of work for a board.
Monthly reports.
Yes,
Okay, we have
not
monthly
only do
reports.
you get a monthly report, our checks, all of our checks are dual signed.
Right.
I sign them and a board member signs them, so they get to see our expenses as they go out every time we expense anything.
Okay.
I meet with a board member at least twice a month.
Okay, because I'm concerned about the checks and balances here. You've got, and normally the board they provide that check. And if we're only meeting once a year for a couple hours, that's a lot of information to go through for one meeting, and to try to work out. But if we're receiving monthly reports, then we can ask questions.
And I'll just say from my experience in Lovettsville, whenever I asked a question, I got a response immediately.
Okay.
So it was a very quick turnaround, a very cooperative relationship.
Okay.
Yes, you will see every single month exactly what was expended, and you will see what every jurisdiction took in, and the revenues are directly deposited into your account.
Okay. And do you know where Arlington pulled out, or the reason they withdrew?
I've been there for almost 28 years, and it was before me, but from my understanding, there was a personality conflict between the commissioner and the administrator at the time. Our office used to be located in Arlington County's building, and those two had a personal disagreement.
That's a lot of money over personality difference.
Yes, then Arlington County they said they could do it cheaper. They do not have a tax stamp. It's an honor system.
Really?
And now that the regime out in Arlington is starting to change, they are considering coming back to the board.
Okay.
Okay.
And do you want to open up for Debbie after Dawn, if she has any questions?
Is there any more questions?
I guess I was just interested or concerned that we're going to be paying more money. I realize we're going to get the enforcement piece that we don't have currently, and we're also going to have the common stamp. So I guess the dangle out there is that we're going to have more revenue because we'll have more compliance with our, as you were saying, that the issue is, they're going to other untaxed, jurisdictions and then bringing cigarettes in for resale and then charging the regular rate but not actually paying us the tax. I guess that's the...
Right, and I can tell you what we did for the one we found that's not in compliance, we just went and bought because we don't have jurisdiction out here, and they were selling it for a lot less.
Oh, so they were undercutting
Yes.
the other retailers who were buying the appropriate stamp. So it's not just hurting us, the city, but it's also hurting
It's
other
hurting your
retailers
businesses
too.
who are doing it legitimately. It was definitely a lower price.
And this was in Manassas Park?
Yes.
Okay. Is that, if you could clarify for the folks at home, perhaps Laszlo's the one who made this statement, clarify why we think we are under-collecting that tax revenue. Are you basing,
if
did you
they're not
base
in
the statement
compliance-
on what she said?
Correct. If they're not in compliance, that means they're not purchasing our stamps, so they're not lawful. And if it's true that they're undercutting their competitor, and I looked at where the area was, it makes sense why their competitor is actually selling less than what I thought they would.
Oh.
So that's even
I guess
additional.
what I'm
affects your
asking-
sales tax as well.
Okay, I guess what I'm wondering is it that one incident, that one seller, or is this indicative of?
It's something I think you need to stay on top of, because it's something that at any time a business can then violate if you're not on top of.
Yes, and if you're not having inspections, we have found in our other jurisdictions, there's quite a few that will supplement. So they'll still be on what we would call your radar, because they're buying legitimate on a certain amount, and then they'll be bringing in other product that will not be taxed. Because that's a $6.50 difference in a carton from right up the street.
Okay.
Right.
Are there any more questions?
When
Just a minute.
Okay.
when you do the inspections, are they unannounced?
Yes.
Okay.
Preston.
You want to open
I'll
this up
get
for
to
Debbie?
it in a minute.
Got it.
Maybe.
Okay. No more questions?
What tobacco products does the stamp applies to?
They, there's stamps right here if you'd like to see them.
Just the cigarettes?
Type of products is just cigarettes or
Oh,
like
just
vape or-
cigarettes.
Okay.
Vape has not been, it's still under a lot of discussion. And for now, the state has not allowed localities to tax OTP, which is other tobacco products. So if they were to decide to give jurisdictions the authority, then it would come underneath us as well.
What about smokeless or like the tins? I don't know what you call it, smokeless
It's
tobacco.
OTP, it's other
so,
tobacco
So
products.
those are not taxed. at
Not
all.
locally, only state.
Okay.
Okay. If we have no more questions, sir?
What type of revenue does Manassas Park have from the cigarette stamp tax? What kind of revenue
Oh, it's just up there.
You're talking about the latest, like, we're projecting $280,000 for this fiscal year.
65 cents a pack.
Yeah, and
what do you do with the money?
It's just built into, it's part of the general fund, so it's just a general fund revenue that's just a base for administration, police, fire, social services, schools, everything.
Mr. Knight.
what I think we would all like to hear from our Commissioner of the Revenue, if you have any comments or questions or concerns, we would love to hear from you. Would you come to the microphone? Yeah.
I'm not sure what you would like to hear.
Do you have any concerns? Is there anything that you've heard this evening that
I'd
you
like
would
to
like-
know where she went
I beg your
off
pardon?
camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gather raises
Yeah.
red flag.
Would you like to share
The
anything?
only concern that I have is you said that you would put a stamp on all the people who have currently purchased stamps. Is that, so you're going to have like 1 million stamps? Because we have quite a few.
No, we give a sellout period, and then it's generally not very many, but if there is, we have an actuality because you all already have a tax. We may not even, we don't need to do that, because that, the other 17 jurisdictions besides Fredericksburg were brand new. They didn't have any indicator on them that there was a local tax. But with Fredericksburg, we did not have to do that because it was either our stamp or a Fredericksburg stamp. But we will go through and double check to make sure that everybody is in compliance pack by pack at the time. That there hadn't not been any filtration of outside stamps and make sure that they are, we would get with you and seize those because Fredericksburg tax had never been paid on them.
Okay, my concern is we have a lot of stamps. By me telling you that we were close to selling out, I'm talking about to the wholesalers who in turn turn around and sell them to the retailers. It may take 4, 5, 6 months before we get completely out of stamps. So I don't know what we would do in the meantime, whether we would wait until we get,
Run out, yeah.
till we run out, or
Is that
whether
an
we're
option
gonna.
we have? Like,
Yes,
okay.
because you get to decide, most people will start on July 1, but we've had some start in May, it's whenever that they are ready to, we just start collecting at the first of the month, whatever month it is.
So Debbie, your estimate is that we have about 6 months worth of stamps?
That's just before they would sell out through the retailer. The wholesalers, as she said, some are ready to order stamps now, so they may be out in 3 months. It just depends on what the sales are.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Debbie?
I guess I'm just concerned that it's going to cost the city more money.
I have that same concern.
You know, just and no disrespect to you, just that I have that concern. It's just that it actually would cost the city money. I think that we would get the enforcement that we don't
Right.
currently are aggressive with. So we might come up with some more money. Maybe in the short term, we get more retailers, more wholesalers in compliance. So maybe it would be a wash the first year. So I know you brought up that the state may change or do a change, so that may affect us. We could end up ordering and then end up having to reorder again, which I think that was your comment. So I'm a little torn. I guess Councilmember Banks said that I'm concerned with an organization with a lot of money with not a lot of oversight from their board, and I just I know how much oversight we give to our city departments. Just that oversight piece is important, and that concerns me.
Questions? Okay. Any more comments, Debbie?
No.
Thank you very much.
Just the question for Debbie. I'm sorry.
ahead.
Are you interested in being the representative to sit on the board from Manassas Park?
No.
I would be interested. That'd be a long day for me. I'd comb through those books, but yeah.
Excuse me?
I'd be interested.
I mean, you would be the person because you know the tax law for the cigarette tax the best.
Right, but I wouldn't know what they were doing and how their reporting works. I know we have to have the stamps up front, so I know what our stamps look like. I know what businesses that they should be. If we have all one stamp, I wouldn't be able to go out and check on that kind of stuff. And plus, during the day and right at lunchtime, that we're already short-staffed.
Right.
And this will open up
That's true.
some time and some resources for you if it did shift over. You wouldn't have to handle this area, so that would.
I don't anyway. I have a staff member that does the cigarette tax.
Yeah, but that
stamps,
person could be
but-
redirected to do something else instead of dealing with cigarette stamps. That's what I'm saying. So we have a savings there as well. I'm supportive of moving over. There's 1.5 million people that these 18 jurisdictions do. If we join, we'd be 1% of what that population is, and this just makes sense. And we have some. It's not a startup board. It's been there for many years, so I'm supportive. I request this on my budget guidelines every year, so I'm supportive of moving in this direction. I'd like to match it with the fiscal year, though.
So how much staff time do you estimate is spent on cigarette
About
tax?
an hour a month.
An hour a month. Okay. That's not a real lot. Okay. Okay.
No, it's not.
So what is the will of the governing body? We have motion 1 has been recommended by city manager. Motion 2 is to continue to purchase stamps in the manner that we have done in the past.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to move motion number 1 to join the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board.
I want to second that.
Read it off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the record.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Yeah. So I move to go. Okay. I make the motion to go with the motion number 1. The motion reads as: task the city manager to work with the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board administrator to get a resolution drafted and presented to both the Cigarette Tax Board and the Manassas Park governing body requesting entrance of the city of Manassas Park to the Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board. Once a resolution is adopted by both bodies, the city manager is tasked with bringing a Northern Virginia Cigarette Tax Board agreement to the governing body for approval.
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Let the record show 1 no. Okay. Motion passes. Thank you. May we ask that you could bring that up and show us what you're talking about? What?
It's okay. I get you. I mean, you were down to the end.
We did do this. This is the one we bought that was not under Virginia from Manassas Park.
Okay.
This one has a clear Manassas Park stamp. And this one is one that just has a click. This is because you have to have a path of business. And this came from Manassas.
Okay.
They get old and then they don't stick very well. They click off and you can't designate because of what's.
If I see a Titanic, I want to not get on the boat. And then I listen to Debbie.
Okay.
Can we see this?
I got you,
He
Debbie.
wants, he wants to see it.
Well, they're not bound by the same requirements. That's weird.
Okay, so.
Okay, I see.
Somebody gave them some.
Oh, they were doing one stamp for every 3 packs instead of a stamp on every pack. Is that what you're saying?
Does anyone want to see it down
Sure, I'd
here?
love to see, yeah. I don't buy cigarettes, so I don't know what our stamp looks
Good.
like.
Did you want to?
Sure. I've never even.
Moving on, next item is 8A. Because a 2006 city pay period change resulted in double payment to employees, and in recognition of the loyalty of long-term employees, the governing body is considering pardoning the debt that was owed as a result of the 2006 double payment. And we thank Councilmember Shoemaker for bringing this to our attention.
Well, thank you. I just say just a little bit is this, one of the, the impetus was that my mom passed away, and doing the final paperwork, I discovered this. I don't know that any of us on the board here, I don't even know that any of us knew that this existed. So just kind of as a way to reward our long-term employees, and I do want to say for the public benefit is that it just won't cost us any money because the money was paid out in 2006. That's how long the city's been carrying this on the rolls, and so it actually requires staff time as well because somebody has to manage the list of people and how much they owe, because they all owe different amounts because it's based on their hourly rate at the time of in 2006, not their current rate. So, but I thought it would be a great way to reward our city employees, all of whom have been on for at least 12 years or more, because this was in 2006. I thought it was a low cost, no cost way of saying thank you to our employees who've been with us a long time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add from the agenda item. I can answer any questions. I know I provided that calendar to try to make sense of how it worked out. Just want to reiterate the average amount would be around $345. We haven't budgeted for this, so there's no budget impact. We're not carrying this as an asset or liability from an accounting standpoint, so there's no financial impact. There's no cash impact to this because we wouldn't be taking money out of our account right now to give to someone. Now, we wouldn't be getting that money in the future, but to Donald's point, he's accurate. We have staff who's actively tracking that, and so you eliminate those expenses as well and free up time for them. So I just want to reiterate the last paragraph I had, that with our financial inability to provide competitive pay and annual bonuses, this gives us an opportunity to provide bonus to long-term employees without impacting our budget or financial position. So I recommend.
Okay.
Recommend
Any
it.
questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So, how many long-term employees does this really benefit?
I have the list.
I think you said on email it was 50?
It's 50 right now. Yeah, it's actually on this. Yeah, it's currently 50 employees.
So one out of every.
It's on the cover page.
Yeah, so it's 1/3.
1/3 of our
Yeah.
current employees.
Yeah, that doesn't count seasonal, of course, but yeah, from a full-time equivalent, yeah.
Wow.
And they make up the total of 17,262? Okay, okay.
So,
Go ahead.
I think you probably must have, like when we looked into this one, what's the FICA impact to the city and the tax impact, to the employees?
To the employees themselves?
Yeah. Because this is basically a gift, so it's
All it
gonna
is
be a
is that
bonus,
that
right?
year they paid tax on the money that was received, right? And this year, if we were to deduct that, they would no longer have to pay. So the tax has already been paid by them.
It has.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that year we double paid them, so the tax with the FICA and everything was already calculated that, and their W-2 would show the total amount provided. Yeah.
And the city paid the double FICA too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Staff recommendation is that the governing body permit the city manager to recognize and reward long-term employees of the city by pardoning the debt owed from the 2006 double payment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our next item is proposed schedule for budget and strategic planning.
Mayor and council, you can see in front of you, I have an amended budget schedule based off conversations we had via email. I added on February 20th a regular governing body meeting. We're holding a regular governing body meeting, but at that meeting, I'd like to get the budget priorities, have a discussion on kind of where you want to go. And then in early March, I should get the assessment data and be able to finally do a full revenue analysis and then come in with a budget trying to match those priorities of your, if we're able to meet them. But just as a reminder, our debt once again jumps up by nearly $800,000, so that's going to restrict a lot of our flexibility this year again.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the last year it goes up, and then
I think it tapers down a little bit next year.
Yeah,
And I just want to point out that we can feel free to cancel any of these work sessions or meetings specifically for the budget if we arrive at our decision ahead of time, if we feel we don't need all of these. I believe last year we canceled several. There was not a lot of wiggle room in the budget. There may or may not be this year. So let's not feel that we have to follow this schedule if we complete our task ahead of time.
I like this. It gives us the ability to really hone and focus in on the enterprise funds, and see what's going on there, especially since we've got a lot going on. So I like this, and it gets us prepared for when we get that assessment. We'll be able to adjust however it is, whether it's a plus or minus for us.
And before I forget, also there's also the strategic planning schedule in the back. So I just wanted to see if you all had any questions on that and the budget calendar.
Okay.
I guess.
Not on the back of that. Sorry, in the actual packet you have.
Oh, in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's in the back?
Yeah.
I guess a comment and a comment, but I feel like we didn't have enough sessions last year. So I don't know that we'll need all these, but it's real easy when you don't have a lot of extra money to say we don't have a lot of extra money. But I guess I would be concerned about waiting for adoption until June 19th or June 26th.
I was a little
You could
concerned about
just
that
maybe by
also,
June
yeah.
5th that we would have it nailed down.
Yeah.
I'm just showing, June 5th is like the first one where we can adopt, and I would recommend we do that. I'm just showing you that we have, in case things don't work out, we don't have to panic. We still have some more time to get this done.
That's the absolute drop dead date.
Exactly, yeah. And then you can see the red one. That's the like we would have to hold an emergency session to adopt it if needed.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that was my only concern, is not to wait till June 19th to the 26th unless something that's unforeseen at this point, but just to kind of have it nailed down by June 5th. Just.
And I actually, and I respect your point of view, but I felt that we had just the right amount of budget work sessions last year. There's only so many ways we can say, gee, I wish we had more revenue. So,
yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve the amended budget schedule for FY19 budget and the strategic planning schedule?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you for the amended schedule.
Thank you.
And last, 8C, we have it's another revision of the Route 28 resolution per request from Prince William County, because it revises the funding amount that is requested, and we are more than happy to revise whatever resolution they want if it's for Route 28.
I had something I saw while I was sitting here. I would have done it earlier, but it was something. I see a word. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom on the first page, and I think it should read "and proposes," but it has the word "purposes."
Budget and
Is that in the resolution?
Yes,
Is it
Budget
it's
and
budget
purposes.
and purposes more projects.
I
think it should say proposes.
Hold on.
Okay.
I know I see it.
Well, legally speaking, do we have to pass the precise resolution that was sent to us, or can we correct the spelling?
Well, you can correct the spelling.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you pass
Okay.
the resolution you want to pass.
Okay.
It will still support their intent.
Okay, support the intent. Okay, so.
Was
So
this
question,
one?
I don't think it proposes, I don't think proposes is the right word for it.
Yeah,
That's-
it proposes more projects than they can fund, yes. They put a list of projects, they don't necessarily know if
Yeah,
they're gonna
it
have
should
enough
be
money for.
proposes, it should be.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, Jeanette?
yes.
I have a question, since you're our NVTA representative. These two projects which we have here, transaction ID 350, actually it's the same two IDs.
Yes.
Which section of Route 28 is this for? Because I know Prince William County, like, when got funded for, Route 28 widening, south of Lincoln Hall.
Proposes is definitely.
This is
the
not
word.
for that.
Okay.
This is
But what specifically is this?
from Liberia until Bull Run.
Okay.
Liberia.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure because the previous, projects, which got funded, benefited, Prince William County south of Lincoln Hall. And most of the residents of Manassas Park and, even Manassas, who are going north, still get stuck in the 28 congestion.
Right.
So if the county's priority is, looking to get us to support these resolutions and use it to widen 28 only south of Manassas Park, and it's not going to benefit us, then I would not support this.
No, this is not for that. And we had no control over that other piece of 28 that was widened. We had no control over that. That was on a completely different project list
In criteria.
with completely different funding.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
That's not this.
No,
Yeah,
it's
but-
years prior too, right? That was not.
They
that was
want it
like 3
shovel
years
ready.
ago, correct?
Oh, and
Shovel-ready
it's been a
project.
while.
Yeah, it's
It was
been a while.
approved a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was for shovel-ready projects. That was the criteria.
Right. Okay.
This is
No,
the
that
s-
was the only question,
This is the
Because I want
study.
to make sure that, any money which is spent, it's not just spent, in the counties, and it's not going to benefit, the jurisdictions were sandwiched, Both Fairfax County and Prince William County have a significant portion of 28, and, so far I've not seen much progress happen in widening that part of it.
This is specifically designed to provide congestion relief for Route 28 between Liberia and Bull Run. Now, Manassas City is very concerned about downtown Manassas. It's a choke point, hence the two bypass alternatives.
And that's my concern, because if those bypass alternatives are considered, then that doesn't solve the problem of Route 28 congestion here
Well,
in Yorkshire.
It still
and,
does, not to the extent that we would want it to, but it will, according to the figures.
Okay, I am doubtful of that, and that's my concern, that, all these projects, will get funded for those, bypass and, other projects which are really not going through Manassas Park and, the Route 28 intersection.
You're right.
This was written vaguely so that it would apply to the 4 alternatives. 2 of the alternatives are more or less bypasses of some sort. The 3rd alternative is widening Route 28, and the 4th alternative is Euclid, and then joining up with Route 28 further into Prince William County. And we still are not 100% certain as to which one will be chosen.
If I may, I actually.
Oh, do
for
you know,
anyone-
Calvin?
For anyone interested, I actually
Sorry.
have the hard copy of the final alternatives study.
Okay.
That was concluded in November after the public meetings.
you've got that.
So it's a very large
Okay.
chunk of material, but for anybody interested, the study is finalized. This money that is being sought from the MVTA can only include funding towards those 4 alternatives.
Okay, what are the 4 alternatives?
Towards one of those 4.
2B, 2A.
One of those 4.
Currently, the preferred alternative is a bypass alternative.
Okay, which doesn't benefit us.
But it relieves the congestion on Route 28, which was the goal of the goal of the technical committee. The goal of the project was to relieve congestion on Route 28, and that's the language that was used by the technical committee, and there was disagreement in the past on whether the answer was a bi-county parkway, a tri-county parkway, the widening of 28. Prince William and Manassas Park had both had Euclid Avenue extended on their CIPs for some time and in their comp plans for some time. Prince William had removed the Euclid Avenue extension from their CIP due to the number of residential takings that would be required. The technical committee looked at, I think at one time, 21 different alternatives that were spelled out in 15 different main categories. Some of them had subsets. These 4 scored the highest, provided the most congestion relief.
So one is a bypass.
2 of them are versions of a bypass where the difference is really the terminus. The terminus would either cross Bull Run and marry into Ordway, or the terminus would be farther up.
Okay, so what are the remaining 2?
The
Euclid
remaining
Avenue
2 are
extension.
Euclid Avenue extension, which would go through our Connor Center district and then through the residential portion of Prince William County, and then the other is to actually widen Route 28 itself.
Okay.
The widening of Route 28 itself would not provide the same amount of congestion relief as an alternative artery. So that's why that it's currently the bypass methods are the first 2 that will be studied. These bypass methods previously were presented with a wider right-of-way and did not get any sort of blessing from the Corps of Engineers when it came time to cross Bull Run. The proposed bypass will impact a historical site in that same area, which is why no one is certain until this environmental impact study is complete whether or not the first bypass option, the preferred option, will actually survive. If it's not buildable, it's not buildable. If it can't survive the NEPA process, it can't survive the NEPA process. So then we'll move on to the second preferred alternative. And ultimately, the widening of 28 it would depend on the technical committee's decision at that time. Whether or not Euclid also comes with some environmental impacts, some uncertainty as far as construction because of the length it would have to travel along waterway, and not knowing the soil conditions along there, not knowing whether we'd actually be building some iteration of a 3-mile long bridge or if we'd actually be able to build on stable soil. So that's where the questions arise, and the technical committee would have to decide if the bypasses weren't real alternatives because of the NEPA process, then would we go with the widening of 28 as the next recommended project for study, or would it be the Euclid Avenue extension?
And they're expediting the EIS to the best of their ability so that if the first one is denied, they can roll right into the next one.
So the first preferred alternative is the bypass. The second preferred alternative is also
Different
a bypass.
version of the bypass.
Okay,
yes.
so the third option is Euclid, and the fourth option is widening 28.
Right.
An alternative artery is a good option, because even if you widen 28, a major accident still stops 28. So an alternative artery is the preferred option, because that way if there is an accident on one of the arteries, the other artery is still open for business. So that's
Would it make alternative 9 more competitive if it terminated at Liberia instead of having the tail? I know that the engineers seem to be just fixated that it has to be a complete bypass, but that adds a lot of costs to not go very far, not to do much. Does it make that alternative more competitive because of less costs and less takings at the end, where that's not where the traffic is and that's not where the congestion relief is needed?
Yeah, because it adds more to the traffic congestion numbers. We talked about this to the last meeting. It changes the numbers, you're right.
But it also would reduce the cost quite a bit, because you wouldn't have to take a bunch of businesses that are down in that section.
The hard part about anything like this, like I said, at one point in time there were 21 options on the table. You can only draw up some very hypothetical paths for a roadway. You can only estimate right-of-way taking costs.
Right.
You can pretty much evaluate the impacts of the right-of-way takings, but not to any sort of fine detail level until you actually have started engineering the project. The projects have not been engineered. You draw lines on a piece of paper where logically the roadway might go, trying to lessen the taking impacts as you go along, and then you put some rough numbers into some modeling and you see what pans out as far as congestion relief. You evaluate very rough estimate costs, not knowing build year, not knowing how much right-of-way is going to cost, not knowing what the environmental impacts are going to be, and not even knowing what the ultimate right-of-way section is going to be, the width of the right-of-way section. We know what we're proposing. So when you try to you're trying to study a lot of projects without spending a lot of money on each and every project. So the different ways that projects that didn't score as well obviously had issues. Either cost was going to be, a lot of it had to do with support as well. You know, if they weren't going to garner any support, there was no point in pushing forward with them. But in the end, the projects that offered the best congestion mitigation in the computer modeling, the projects that cost really didn't seem to weigh very heavily. The issue was congestion relief. These projects, these bypasses are incredibly expensive, but they knock everybody else out of the ballpark when it comes to congestion relief on 28. If that was the ultimate goal, then these bypasses are probably your best bet at having a nice, smooth commute down 28.
I guess I'm just concerned because, I mean, I went to the 28 meetings, some of the public meetings that we had, you know, Manassas Park and, you know, over the years. And, you know, every dollar we spend on this is a dollar we can't spend anywhere else as a region. And so my concern is it's going to be a great road if you live in Bristow or Nokesville, because those are the people who are going to have a sweet ride on 28 bypass driving around. And the people in Manassas Park in Yorkshire are still going to be stuck with 90% of the traffic that's on the same road that exists today. And the 10% of people, or whatever the number is, that are on the new road, they're going to have a great road. And the rest of us are going to be stuck.
I share your same.
Well, and we have
That's
no
my
i-
opinion.
and-
That's
and-
my opinion.
Right, and in the end, we really don't know which one of the four alternatives, because it all depends on the environmental impact statement.
Yeah.
But I share your pessimism, and yours too, Suhas. For once, I'm a pessimist. Because Jeanette and I were on the executive committee. I think we still are for this, and we did a good job of trying to advocate for your points and for our citizens, and it got to the point that I asked for a reset of the entire project, right? Which is going to set back the clock. But I realize, and this is an important lesson for all of us, is that in projects like this, every step of the process is critical. And I should have gone back and fought over the objectives of the project a lot harder, because the objectives determine the scope of the options. And then all of a sudden, these bypass projects, whether it's 2B or 2A, became better scored. And then other considerations like Liberia, and we all experience that traffic on Liberia, whether it's the weekends or the weekday, that wasn't taken in consideration. And then by the time I realized it was too late. That objectives meeting already took place months before. And so, and we still have to see how it plays out, but that's a
Although
lesson
I
learned.
will say, it's hard to argue with an objective which is congestion relief.
Right, it is.
So,
But
It
who's
is.
congestion relief?
And where?
Yeah, some people are going to get a lot more congestion relief than other people are going to get.
well,
I'm afraid.
supposedly the numbers are good. I mean, we've seen the numbers. They are good for Route 28.
The study evaluated all of the traffic signals from through Old Town Manassas all the way up to Fairfax, where they already have a widening project scheduled. So looking at the ratings of those intersections, looking at the ratings of intersections that were within a certain distance of 28, we were looking at exactly what projects improved the ratings of those intersections. So if you were an E, a D, or an E, and your intersection rating, and all of a sudden when you model in a bypass and your traffic volumes drop so that your intersection's operating at a C, you've done a good job. If your modeling doesn't pull enough traffic off of Route 28 from Old Town to Fairfax and your intersections are still getting ratings of E's and F's, then your project wasn't relieving congestion on Route 28.
Right now, there's so many Fs on Route 28.
You're right.
Because when you're looking at intersections and you're looking at travel time through the corridor, the entire corridor.
I mean,
So-
I travel south on 28, thank goodness, not north in the morning, at least once a week. And one of the worst spots is exactly where one of those bypass options comes in. One of the worst spots is basically through Compton Road and back past the Old Laws auction and back through Orchard Glen or whatever that is. That's usually one of the worst spots of congestion from Old Centerville Road, which is way up by 29 all the way back. That's the worst spot, and that's where one of those options dumps the traffic right there in the same bad section that there is right now. So I just don't understand. I mean, a model is great, but driver behavior is much different. $40 tolls on 66 didn't prevent people from traveling on the road. which
Okay,
is,
we're off topic now.
Yeah, I
Now,
have
to
one
bring
last-
this, okay.
I have one last question. Didn't Fairfax County submit widening of Route 28 between Bull Run and Route 28 as a project to NVTA?
And 29?
They're doing P&E right now.
Bull Run to 29, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, Fairfax County is making the effort to widen Route 29, but Prince William County is looking at all these 4 different options, right?
But the team that was looking at all the different options was a 4-jurisdiction team.
Okay.
It was Fairfax, Prince William, Manassas, and Manassas Park. We all had representatives on the technical committee as well as VRE. If you were a transportation and organization in Northern Virginia, you were invited to the meetings to be a part of the technical committee.
And
every
a
meeting
number
I've-
of electeds from the various jurisdictions.
No, I think, I got all my questions answered. I'm not going to be in support of this resolution. I have to say this because Fairfax County is going to widen Route 28, which is going to help the traffic move faster from all the way from 28 north, from 66 and all the place, and it's going to come and become like a funnel as soon as we come to the Bull Run Bridge.
Right.
And if we don't widen 28, it's going to just make it more worse. So I think, we really have to look at, those preferred alternatives 3 and 4 to alleviate any congestion. That's my personal opinion. I know, you guys have done your best,
Yeah.
and the technical committee have looked at it but that's my personal opinion based on the information.
Did you vote no on the previous 2 resolutions of this type, or did you vote yes?
I don't remember it.
Okay.
I don't
Because
remember.
I thought you voted yes on one of the previous Route 28 resolutions, and the only difference is that they've increased the funding request.
I don't
That's the
remember
only
which
difference.
resolution I voted, but my understanding was, those previous resolutions were basically in support of all those studies, which we have concluded, but now we have come down to the 4 preferred alternative.
Well, this
My
is to
fear
get it-
is, the preferred alternative, which I would prefer, which would benefit our residents, is not going to be chosen. So this resolution is basically going to support, the preferred alternative, which is going to benefit, the county and the residents south of
Well,
Manassas
wait a
Park.
second. All 4 alternatives will benefit Manassas Park, to varying degrees, but we will obtain benefit from all 4 of the alternatives. Is that correct, Calvin?
That's true.
The congestion relief numbers show that all 4
The goal of the study was, the primary goal was to find something that relieved congestion, and thereby you evaluated what had the most impact on the level of service at the intersections throughout the corridor and reduced travel time throughout the entire corridor. So these projects certainly are the 4 that did the most to improve the level of service of the intersections on 28 and to reduce the overall travel time through the corridor. The bypass aspect, the way it fits Manassas Park is that you're taking an enormous chunk of traffic and you're getting them off of Route 28 to an alternative before they get to Manassas Park. So 28 might be full through southern Prince William County and the Nokesville area, but then all of those cars will be offered an opportunity to get off of Route 28 and take a faster option. So when the congestion starts, you're splitting the traffic into two groups. The group that will choose the bypass, the group that will choose to stay on the signalized Route 28. So a lot of people are going to choose to get off of the signalized, the well-signalized corridor and choose the bypass, which will have far fewer traffic signals.
Well
I
said,
understand what you're
Calvin.
saying,
Thank you.
Calvin, but this is all purely my personal opinion.
Yeah, and
I don't
okay.
think they will.
I also have a
comment.
You have a question? Yeah.
People coming from 28th South, say from from First County or Loudoun County through Dallas corridor, Amazon, selected, that Northern Virginia site, just by Dallas Airport. If that were to come to fruition, and if there were more people employed there, and if any of those people were going to be living in Manassas Park or Manassas or even in Prince William County, they would be taking a straight shot, taking 28. They wouldn't come down 28 and then take an exit and go onto 66 and take a bypass and then get off, right? So it's a simple human psychology. So from that perspective, what we're thinking, people who want to take the bypass and, not use 28 doesn't really apply. And then, most importantly, what I'm really concerned about is, people who live in Yorkshire and Manassas Park and even Manassas, they don't have an alternative. So they will have to take 28 and come down. So there is no other way. Whenever we've had road constructions or the railway track has been blocked, there's only two ways to come to Manassas Park. One is 28 or through Liberia, and that doesn't change, right? So that's what my concern is. I know, I'm not holding any of you guys in at
No,
fault,
we understand.
but it's my frustration that the committee and the technical committee and all the other representatives who looked at it don't understand, how it's going to impact Manassas and how it doesn't really benefit us.
It doesn't.
Well,
Can I make a comment? Because
Yeah, well, wait, Miriam has a question.
Yes. I also want to express my frustration as Vice Mayor Suhas Nadoni, because at the end of, if the bypasses are selected, I don't know if really is going to alleviate in some way, in some degree, the Route 28 congestion that directly affects Manassas Park residents. I think it's going to affect just in a lower degree, but I'm tired that we always are treated as the second-class citizens because we are a small jurisdiction. So I always I go with the 28 widening or the Euclid option. But I support the resolution because either way is going to alleviate somehow, not in the way that I would like, but it is going to alleviate somehow.
I agree. I have my brothers, I have my preferences also, but
Yeah.
sometimes we have to take what we can get.
We're not second class. We're not treated second class. I mean, for 28, it's been a fight making sure 28 became a priority. And that was back in
We are not getting it.
the VDOT steering committee meetings.
I know that you fight a lot, but
so-
we still didn't get what is more convenient for.
And they dealt with us
Well,
in that
Manassas
meeting.
Park had Route 28 on their legislative agenda, and Bill can tell you, Bill's in the audience, before Manassas and even before Prince William County.
Right.
I want to make one comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about movement of people. It's about regional. It's about being competitive as a region. So we need to move people. If we do nothing and pick who it helps everyone. It's a movement. So I support this resolution. I think it'll do something. We need more infrastructure to meet the demand of population. People are moving this area. They have to be able to get where they need to go. And that's what needs to be done. And those who don't believe, who say, if we don't do this, we do that. There's no highway through DC. 395 is cut off because people fought it. No highway north, no highway east to west. So the Beltway's crowded. And we pay for it. And it's over congested. And then we pay $50 as of last week. I think $52 on a toll on our roads. You need more infrastructure, and this will help. It's a piece of the puzzle. That's why I support it.
Okay. Unless there's a burning question.
Also have a
Hector?
comment. So I validate everyone's personal opinion. I also have the same feelings that we want to alleviate the traffic here in Manassas Park. But also, I know like everyone doesn't want traffic here in Manassas Park, but also we do need some flow of cars or vehicles in our area. So for economic development purposes, we need people to also come to Manassas Park. So we can have everyone go to the bypass either. We need some people to come to Route 28.
We need enough traffic to
Yeah.
pass our businesses.
So that's
Yeah,
you
pretty
can have
much.
an extension.
Yeah.
Is it possible to add? I mean, I don't know. I know that they're really making the decision, but I almost feel like we're in a spot, and I'm kind of listening to everybody, that as part of this resolution, we need to add that option 9 and option 4 are two preferred options.
They already know that. I don't think we should alter, I think the spelling correction is sufficient, and the environmental impact statement will take care of probably one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the determining factor right now.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, just kind of listening to everybody that.
Yeah. So to bring this to close, do we have a motion to approve the revised resolution?
Motion to approve
with
the
spelling
revised-
correction?
With spelling corrections.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
One oppose.
Abstain, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. I believe we have a closed meeting. City Attorney? I'm terribly sorry. Manager report.
He got it.
Okay. So just as a reminder, as part of the retreat, we made the decision to hire a couple key positions. And tonight I'd like to introduce you to one of those key positions, the budget manager position. I'll let them flow out so we have less disruption. We have LaTanya Perry, if you would like to come up here. So I'm very excited to introduce you all to LaTanya. She was the overwhelming choice from the panel and myself as well. We were very impressed with her performance, her understanding of budgeting, financial analysis, and beyond that, she really expressed the understanding that it's more than just that. It's understanding management. And she was also aced Pond's Excel test, which I couldn't do it. I was struggling. Everyone else was as well, but she got it. So she's at Pond's level with Excel, and that right there is that's a lot to say. She's coming by way of the city of Richmond, which is currently a financial and statistical analyst. So she has that experience in working with multiple departments in a complex environment to kind of synthesize budget analysis and also performance management analysis, and that's what really impressed me as well, because that's one of my major management philosophies for the organization. She also worked in the city of Chesapeake and the Norfolk Public Schools, so she has a lot of municipal experience, and like I said, just a great understanding of financial analysis and budgeting, financial software applications and how they work as well, government regulations and grants management as well. That's another exciting piece, and overall she was the best candidate, and I really think she's going to bring some great analysis that we need and professionalism to streamline our budget process. So with that, I'd like to welcome LaTanya to the team, if you'd like to say a few words.
Welcome. Welcome,
LaTanya.
Glad to have you here.
I just want to say that
Could
I'm
you speak
honored.
into the?
I'm sorry. I just want to say that I'm honored to be selected for the position of budget analyst. For the position of budget manager. I'm looking forward to working with all the staff here at the City of Manassas Park, as well as working with the citizens of Manassas Park. I hope to be able to be a team player and working within the City of Manassas Park, and hope to be able to bring forth a lot of the experience that I've been able to, was honored to be able to obtain over the years of my career. And so I'm just looking forward, and thank you again for selecting me for the position of budget manager.
Well, thank you for
Awesome.
choosing
Thank
us.
you, LaTanya.
Yes.
Can you tell us your full name? I'm sorry.
Welcome.
What's your last name?
Perry.
Okay.
And
Yes.
she's starting on Monday, so
Yes.
Excellent.
Right.
Yes.
Great.
flows perfectly with the budget.
Budget,
Okay.
I know.
How long were you in Richmond for?
I'm sorry.
How long were you in Richmond for?
For 3.5 years.
Oh, that's my favorite spot, Mama J's in Southern Kitchen.
Yes, I've tried that.
I like the way your treasurer's office is run there.
Yes.
Welcome, Latonia. Welcome.
Welcome. Glad
Thank
you're
you.
here.
Super.
We're the sixth safest city or town in Virginia, so.
That's what I heard.
I know. So-
And if you want to retire here, we're the fifth best place to retire.
No, we're the, Jeanette, we're the third.
Oh, third.
Get it right, we're third.
Jeanette retired here and she doesn't
Knock
know.
us down. Don't knock us down, we're third. Hey, my,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. And now, City Attorney, do you have a motion for us to
Yes,
go into
ma'am.
closed session?
I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to consult with the city attorney regarding 2 specific legal matters requiring legal advice of the city attorney pursuant to paragraph 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, we're in closed session. We'll take a 5-minute comfort break.
So do you know why